Hey guys, Bios and Ramos, and today the Miami Dolphins defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 7-19. And I mean, if you were watching just the first half, you would have thought, "Oh my God, this is not looking good for the Dolphins." But in the second half, Dolphins turned it up and ended up putting 13 points on the board to secure the win. And the second half really got, I mean, the whole game was kind of feisty. It started off real early. Xavien Howard got an early interception, and then later on in the first half, Xavien Howard and Tyler Boyd get ejected for throwing punches, which kind of bogus call. But then later on in the game, Mike Thomas, wide receiver for the Bengals, kept on spearing Jakeem Grant on punt returns, and I mean, on the second one, everyone just got furious and like benches cleared for the Dolphins, and a couple players got ejected. Williams from the Bengals, and then also Devante Parker and Mack Hollins from the Dolphins. So, I mean, this game was pretty feisty. But enough of that. Let's get into some of the stats. This puts the Bengals at 2-9-1, 6-1 on the road. Dolphins 4-2 at home, 8-4 overall. And real quick, we'll talk about some team stats, and then we're going to go into individual stats. So team stats, total yards, Cincinnati Bengals had 196 total yards to the Dolphins 406. There was 2 turnovers for Cincinnati and 1 turnover for the Dolphins. Time of possession, 27 minutes, 44 seconds for the Bengals. 32 minutes, 16 seconds for the Dolphins. First downs, 12 for Cincinnati, 23 for the Dolphins. Now, you see what happened when the Bengals do not have Joe Burrow. They just, I mean, their chance of success at winning games is just very, 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 very low. Dolphins, Tua did not have a good first half, but the second half he did a lot better than what was happening. And the good thing is he wasn't sacked. So we'll talk more about that now. Starting with the Bengals, Brandon Allen went 11 for 19, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 5 sacks for a loss of 30 yards. So he was getting basically pummeled. That's basically what took him out of the game. On that 5th sack, he really got like dinged up. Ryan Finley though came into the game. He went 6 for 7, 40 yards, but threw an interception. So his only incompletion was an interception. And he was sacked once for loss of 7 yards, and that was pretty much as soon as he got in the game. On the other hand, for the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa went 26 for 39, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and no sacks. So that was very good. The Dolphins were able to protect him, even with Eric Flowers going down. So that was kudos to the Dolphins' offensive line. And also another injury was Landon Roberts. So Eric Flowers, ankle injury. Landon Roberts, they said it was a chest injury, and he had his arm in a sling. So we'll be watching that as the week goes on. Let's talk about rushing yards. Giovanni Bernard had 12 carries for 30 yards. Next was Samaje Perine. I believe he was on the Dolphins, if I'm not wrong. He was on the Dolphins recently. Went for 3 for 7 yards. And then Brandon Allen, 2 carries, 3 yards. And when we look at the Dolphins, Myles Gaskin had 21 carries for 90 yards. Lynn Bolden Jr. had 1 carry for 11 yards. Patrick Laird, 3 carries, 6 yards. Tua Tagovailoa, 3 carries, 3 yards. And then when we look at receiver, Tyler Boyd had 1 reception, 72 yards, and a touchdown. That is the only reception he had. He had 4 targets, and one of those targets is what resulted in him getting ejected along with Xavien Howard. But we'll talk about that after the stats. T. Higgins, 5 receptions, 56 yards. Drew Sample, 7 receptions, 49 yards. Alex Erickson, 2 receptions, 70 yards. And then AJ Green, Brandon Allen, Mason Schreck, and Giovanni Bernard each got targeted. Giovanni Bernard got 2 receptions, but minus 1 yard total. Then for the Dolphins, Mike Gesicki was the leading receiver. 9 receptions, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. Myles Gaskin was next, 2 receptions, 51 yards. Jakeem Grant. Myles Gaskin had a big one, of 35-yard reception. Basically, came up the field, was going right, saw Tua was rolling out left, so then he cut back towards the left side of the field, and perfect placement by Tua. It was awesome. Jakeem Grant, 2 receptions, 42 yards. Lynn Bolden Jr., 4 receptions, 41 yards. Devante Parker, 4 receptions, 35 yards. Durham Smythe, 2 receptions, 16 yards. Patrick Laird, 2 receptions, 16 yards. Mack Hollins, 1 reception, 7 yards. And Adam Shaheen got targeted, but he couldn't reel it in. So, fumbles. Von Bell recovered a fumble from Miles Gaskin, and then Jakeem Grant fumbled one, and Noah Igbenogany recovered it and had some return yards. This was on the first punt that he got speared on. Second one, Jakeem Grant didn't fumble it, but Noah Igbenogany recovered it once again. So, I mean, we'll talk more about that in just a bit. We're almost done with the stats. Jesse Bates had 13 total tackles, 10 solo. This is for the Bengals. Sam Hubbard, 10 total tackles, 7 solo. LaShawn Sims had 8 total, 4 solo. And then let's get some key stats. Von Bell had 1 QB hit. Logan Wilson had 1 pass deflection. William Jackson III had 3 pass deflections. He was covering Devante Parker in the end zone pretty good. Carl Lawson had 1 QB hit. And that's about all the key stats for the Bengals. They did not really have a good game defensively. First half maybe, but the second half they were able to not do anything. Now, Dolphins, defensive player of the game, I would probably say it was probably Kyle Van Noy. He had a really good influence. He had 8 total tackles, 8 solo, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, 1 pass deflection, 3 QB hits. That pass deflection turned into an interception, which I'm going to mention after I list all the individual stats. Brandon Jones, 5 total, 2 solo. Xavien Howard, 4 total, 4 solo, 1 pass deflection. Shaq Lawson, 4 total, 3 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, and 2 QB hits. And then some other key stats. Zach Sealer had a sack, tackle for a loss, QB hit. Bobby McCain had a pass deflection. Christian Wilkins had a tackle for a loss. Emmanuel Ogba had 5 QB hits. Raekwon Davis had 1 tackle for a loss. Nick Needham had 2 pass deflections. And that was about it. I mean, the defense was eating today. Zach Sealer, Shaq Lawson, and Kyle Van Noy each had a sack. Kyle had 3, Shaq had 2, and Zach Sealer had 1. No interceptions for the Bengals, obviously. Tua didn't throw one. And then Xavien Howard came down with an interception, which was, beautiful. So all those quarterbacks in the league that are going to be facing the Dolphins, do not throw towards Xavien Howard. Come on. Nick Needham also came down with an interception. That was one of the ones that was tipped up by Kyle Van Noy, and then Nick Needham came down with it. Right there, and the Bengals were threatening to score there, so that was really good. Kick returns, Alec Erickson had 1 return for 24 yards, and then punt returns, Alec Erickson also had 2 returns for 13 yards. Jakeem Grant had 4 returns for 8 yards. This was on the punt returns, and let's go. Kicking, Randy Bullock had 0 for 1 on field goals, and then 1 for 1 on extra points. Jason Sanders went 4 for 4 on field goals, and then 1 for 1 on extra points. His longest field goal was 48 yards. Randy Bullock, his field goal was a little bit right before the half, right before everything kind of happened with the ejections and all. And basically, it put him out of field goal range. So that was unfortunate for them. Cincinnati punting. Kevin Huber had 6 punts, 297 yards. 2 were in the 20, and his longest was 53 yards. Matt Hack had 4 punts, 180 yards. 2 were in the 20, and his longest was 55 yards. So after this game, this puts the Dolphins at 8-4, which is putting us right there in this position to compete with the Buffalo Bills for first place. We would be tied for first, but the Bills would have the tiebreaker because they have a better divisional record because we've lost to both Buffalo and New England. And it's gonna be tough, but it's there. The possibility is there by the end of this week, by Monday. And so Dolphins 8-4. Jets lost, so they're 0-12. And then New England and Buffalo are yet to play. And then not only that, Cincinnati 9-1, still last in the division. Cleveland improved to 9-3, so that's a threatening Dolphins playoff position. And then not only that, that's about it because these other games have not been played, the Pittsburgh and Baltimore games. So let's talk about what transpired in this game. What transpired in this game was basically a giant shit show. After the second punt that Mike Thomas speared Jakeem Grant, the bench is cleared. People were pissed off because, the first one, all right, you're just trying to get to the ball first. That's fine. And it was close because Jakeem Grant was coming down with the ball and, kind of popped down, and then Mike Thomas just blew him up. All right, explainable. That's because he got there right when the ball got there. The second one, he got there before the ball was there and obliterated Jakeem Grant. Like, he was on the ground for a little bit, and Noah Monogany returned it. But bench is cleared. People are throwing punches. Let me see. It was Xavien Williams, who also got ejected for the Bengals. So Parker got in this guy's face, and then he threw, like, he kind of like pushed his helmet off, and then Devante Parker kind of retaliated, and then Mack Hollins was also caught throwing punches and whatnot in this whole scrum. What does this mean for the Dolphins going forward? I don't know if people are going to get suspended. If anyone gets suspended, it's probably going to be Mack Hollins from the Dolphins, at least, on the Dolphins side. Just because he wasn't really involved in anything, and then he just put himself in it. Devante Parker was hit first, and he retaliated. So who knows if any suspensions are going to happen, because that would be very bad for the Dolphins. I don't think anything is going to happen from the Xavien Howard and Tyler Boyd altercation, because that was very minimal. That was nothing compared to at least what was happened later on in the game when the bench is cleared. But if you saw it, you saw that Brian Flores was very, very mad. Like, he was heated. He was approaching Cincinnati's bench with like he was about to throw down for the rest of his team. So I like that the team had his back and had that same mentality going into that game, that, hey, we're not taking this because that's wrong. I mean, yeah, it's football. You're hitting each other, but that's a dirty play. That is 100% a dirty play, and it's not good to see that. You want to hope everyone just does what they need to do, and everything will be settled out after that. But Dolphins won. They're 8-4 now, which keeps us in second right now, but gives us a chance to really, really have a chance to win this AFC East. But next week we don't have no easy task at all. The Dolphins will be playing the Kansas City Chiefs at home, which is good, but still the defending Super Bowl champions. Still the best quarterback in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes. So it's not looking very optimistic, but who knows? I mean, we were hanging in there with Cincinnati, so that's not really, doesn't really give us any type of affirmation that's saying, like, okay, these guys can compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. But every week is different. Some weeks we blow out the 49ers. Next week we have a close game with the Broncos and lose. So, I mean, it's just every week is a different story. It's not, one game doesn't tell you how the entire season is going to go, but that's it. We finished the third quarter of the season. We finished it 3-1, which is not bad at all. Win against the Chargers, win against the Broncos. Lost against the Broncos, win against the Jets, win against the Bengals. So we should have won all those games, but the Broncos game was, I wouldn't call it fluky, but they just punched the Dolphins in the mouth at the end. So, but that leads us to the fourth quarter of the season, which is probably the most important part of our year so far, and that's Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, and Bills. And I've been preaching this ever since the mid-season, ever since the schedule got changed around a little bit. I've been preaching this is going to be the most important stretch of the Dolphins season, and it's looking very likely that it is. But if the Dolphins can come out of this with 2 wins and be 10-6 possibly, that would be very good for them. If they can come up with 3 wins out of the 4, even better, 11-5. With I would say with Cleveland having the success that they're doing, being 9-3, really puts the Dolphins at a tough spot because they need to keep winning. But as of right now, Dolphins are still 6. The Colts, did they play already today? Yeah, they played. They beat the Houston Texans, so that keeps us tied with them. But we have the tiebreaker over them, so they're in 7. Raiders are knocking at the door. They're 7-5. They beat the Jets today, and then just waiting on the Ravens game. And that's about it. That really keeps it close. Then we gotta keep an eye on Patriots, who are 5-6. But as of right now, Dolphins are there competing. As of right now, the Bills are the 3rd seed. So if the Dolphins manage to win the division, especially with Tennessee losing today, which drops them to 8-4, they win. If we win the division, at some point and have a better record than Tennessee, we'll be the 3rd seed. And we'll be playing the 6th seed, who will more than likely be the Bills if things flip around. So just something to keep an eye on. The year is winding down. 4 more weeks of NFL football at least for the regular season, and postseason is upon us, and it's looking very good. But something's got to work on, keeping the cool. And luckily, Dolphins were able to protect Tua in the backfield today, and he didn't get sacked at all, which is very awesome to hear. But next week is going to be a big challenge against the Kansas City Chiefs, so we'll keep more on that after this upcoming week. I'm going to be coming out with the Game Picks video and the 3rd quarter of the season review and more pre-show of the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to go to that game, but tickets are very expensive. The defending Super Bowl champions are in town, so I can see what I can do, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and check out more for later.